From Bloody FM, step into a mysterious shop where every object has a sordid tale to tell.
You have plunged so deep into the depths of despair.
Meet the antique dealer and a rotating cast of the best in horror.
I didn't believe in stuff like this. This wasn't real.
Mike Flanagan, Kate Siegel, David Dasmalchian, Jocelyn Donahue, and more. The antiquarium of sinister happenings and odd goings-on. No refunds, no exchanges. Experience it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
The Toxic Avenger is coming home. Pre-order one of the funniest, most critically acclaimed action movies of the summer at toxicavenger.com/bloodyfm. Get ready to enjoy the hilarious radioactive mayhem from the comfort of your couch. Today's episode is sponsored by I Know What You Did Last Summer. Get it now on digital. When 5 friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, they cover up their involvement and make a pact to keep it a secret, rather than face the consequences. A year later, their past comes back to haunt them, and they're forced to confront a horrifying truth. Someone knows what they did last summer and is hell-bent on revenge. As one by one, the friends are stalked by a killer, they discover this happened before, so they turn to 2 survivors of the legendary Southport Massacre of 1997 for help. Starring Madeline Klein, Chase Sue Wonders, Jonah Hauer-King with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a perfect summer slasher, says Jordan Cruciolo of NPR. Your summer is not over yet. Don't miss a killer movie night at home.
Have you ever heard the tale of a killer hiding in the backseat of a victim's car? Have you ever seen the supposed sightings of Mothman, the Loch Ness Monster, or Bigfoot? Have you ever repeated the name of Bloody Mary in the mirror? Simply search Urban Legends in your podcast provider and join me as I peel back the veil of folklore, exploring the tales that live amongst us, disguised as history. First, hear the tales retold as short stories before delving into the history of the legend, dissecting its cultural significance, factuality, and origins. Some of these legends will take us to dark territories. However, there are also those that are more curious than devilish, more revealing than twisted, and on some occasions, we may even find that some of these stories are, in fact, true. My name is Luke Mordew, and this is Urban Legends.
Hello, and welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to talk to you about the strange things I find late at night on Reddit.com. Well, I did not manage to excise the yearning for more and more odd, high strangeness out of my bones since the last Dark Reddit. So I have more for you. Please take my hand and let's get weird together. I'd like to thank Harrison for sending me this first thread. Feel free to send in anything you find that you might think it would be of interest to me, especially when it comes to Reddit. I love Reddit. Sometimes I feel like I've read the whole website, but I haven't, so feel free to send in things like this, because Harrison, I had not found this thread before, and this was posted 2 years ago in the subreddit Humanoid Encounters by user Shugatsi. They titled it, "Has anyone else encountered people that didn't seem to actually be people?" I was wondering if anyone else has also had any experiences with people that didn't quite seem to be people, like there was something off about them. I had an experience some time ago that I've never could shake off. So this happened in Charleston, South Carolina around Christmas of 2017. I used to work at a popular coffee shop that was inside of a popular big box retail store. One day, around Christmas time, I had two guests that struck me as odd immediately. They were pale Caucasian women, probably mid-20s, that both looked nearly identical, but one was about a head taller. They had the exact same haircut, with straight, platinum blonde bowl-like cuts. Their faces were quite round, and their eyes were a noticeably bright hazel color, and appeared quite large, but not in like a disproportionate gray alien kind of way. They both also had a fairly odd, stiff gait, as though they had a board strapped to their back. They sort of shuffled their feet around when they walked. They both also had on oversized sweaters, and I noticed later the shorter one had theirs on backwards. The weird part was their behavior. When they first walked in, the shorter one looked around the store as if they'd never been in one before. Her overall demeanor was somewhat childlike. Like a good customer service rep, I welcomed them in and told them to ask if they had any questions. The short girl looked to the taller as if for approval. She then slowly nodded her head towards me, mouth slightly agape, and then attempted a hand wave. Instead of waving at the wrist like most people, she waves with her forearm, palm flat and straight in a sort of robotic windshield wiper-like motion. She then turns to the taller one, who gives her an encouraging nod. They then proceeded to walk around the cafe, looking at the cups and merchandise. The short girl would often point all around the store and seem to be asking the taller one questions, almost as if this was a guided tour of sorts. Now, obviously, I'm no linguist, but my city is a fairly popular tourist destination, and I've met foreigners from all over the globe. Even if I don't recognize a specific language, I can usually estimate roundabout where it may be from, whether it's Germanic, Slavic, Asiatic, Mid-Eastern, etc., in origin. But the language they spoke to each other was very strange and not like one I've ever heard. Imagine if you mixed Simlish with Baby Babble and sped it up. Lots of guh, blah, and ooh sounds. They continued on checking out the merchandise and going on what seemed to be a Q&A session. They would often open up cups and look inside, grab bags of beans and squeeze and shake them. At one point, the shorter one took apart a French press, and the taller one seemed to try to explain what it was for. This went on for about another 10 minutes or so, when the short one picked out a studded cup to purchase. She shuffles her way to the POS, puts the cup on the counter, frequently looking towards her friend as if looking for reassurance, who again does a simple nod in encouragement. She then looks towards me and attempts to smile, which was just baring her perfectly straight white top teeth as though she were biting her bottom lip, and slowly nodding, not saying a word. It was here I noticed her sweater was on backwards, the tag sticking out in front of her neck. Now that I had a good look, I will say she was quite oddly attractive, but there was something about her appearance that gave me uncanny valley vibes, but I couldn't tell you what exactly was off. I will say I don't recall them ever blinking. I scanned the cup and went on the typical checkout spiel, to which there was no reply. When it was time to pay, she pulled out a silver credit card that had no markings whatsoever. No logos, no numbers, no name, just blank plastic with a chip. She then looks back over to the taller one and says something, who then comes over and finishes the transaction for her, showing her as though it was a teaching moment. I hand her the cup, and she once again slowly nods her head, mouth ajar, and does her windshield wiper wave. They then shuffle their way out of the cafe into the rest of the store, and I never saw them again. I've told this story to people before, and they usually hand wave it and say they were probably just tourists from Europe, or maybe they had a condition of sorts. But like I've said, I've encountered many foreigners and none of them acted this much like a fish out of water, nor was their overall demeanor and behavior this uncanny. I won't rule it out as a possibility, of course, but it just doesn't quite sit satisfactory for me. It was just too weird. I don't know, what do you guys think? Have you ever experienced anything similar? This post continues with an edit. Edit. First of all, I never anticipated this post blowing up like this. Thank you for all the awards, stories, and theories you're sharing. This has been a fun ride. I appreciate you all. I mostly wanted to reiterate and expound on a few points. When typing this out initially, I wanted to try and make sure I didn't use any specific language that would lead on any particular conclusion, despite my personal view on the situation. I wanted to keep it as neutral as possible and allow room for speculation and discussion amongst y'all, i.e., I didn't want to come out and say, yeah, they were totally aliens, when there could have been other explanations. But I think in doing so, I undersold how weird the situation really was and why I felt it was worth sharing. So here's a few slightly more in-depth details. I mentioned how they were practically identical. They were. Exact age, exact complexion, exact hairstyle, exact same overall presence and demeanor. There were only 4 differences I noticed. Their height, the sweaters they were wearing, the taller one's nose was slightly more sharp and angular, and the shorter one's speech was faster. I've seen people mention that they were a mother/daughter or caretaker/patient situation, which is simply not possible unless they reproduced by mitosis. Twin sisters? For sure, that could work. I mentioned that their eyes seemed big. I know I said it wasn't as disproportionate as a gray alien, which is true, but I should have emphasized that they still appeared much larger than they should have been. I mentioned in a comment below that their skin was absolutely flawless and clear. No scars, creases, blemishes. I couldn't even make out any visible pores, like wearing an Instagram filter almost. Their complexion had an almost ethereal quality to it. I mentioned how they would point around the store and seem to be doing a Q&A. I should have emphasized they pointed at nearly everything, from the signs on the board, the equipment behind the counter, the shopping carts, even the automatic sliding door at the front of the store. It really reinforced the idea the short one, at least, hasn't seen a place like this before. As for the autism angle I've seen mentioned, I've already made a comment below, but in short, I never got the impression that this was the case. I've met and interacted with plenty of people on the spectrum before, language barrier or no, and not once had any of them made me think, yeah, I'm not sure if this person is human. This situation was different. That said, due to the nature of autism, there is always the possibility I'm wrong. And that's about all I feel needs any more emphasizing at the moment. I might update again if I see another point I feel should be reiterated. Very late update. I came across this image online just now and nearly shit my pants. Give this lady a bowl cut and make the chin rounder, and it's basically an exact match to the ladies I saw that day. It should be worth noting that the original image is attributed to a Photoshop artist from back in 2014 or so, but since then it has been spread by UFO enthusiasts as a mock-up of a Pleiadian, which I don't think was ever the original artist's intention. Nevertheless, the resemblance was just so uncanny I had to share. And of course, back to me, Shelby. I will have that image posted for you on social media, or you can find a link to the post in the show notes where the picture is. Since the OP basically addressed the entire situation in the post with updates, I grabbed a few comments that didn't necessarily address their situation, but shared their own stories of figures that were supposed to be human but didn't feel human. So here's one from Lil Poppy 53. Yes, on a plane, about a month before that MFer isn't real thing happened, spotted him first in the airport. He looked me dead in the eyes and his gaze followed me around. I'm like a very average-looking middle-aged mom with a bunch of kids, so he wasn't checking me out. The whole time, I was thinking how odd this guy was, and it scared me. Then he's sitting on the plane when we board, and again, locks eye contact, and I've got chills down my spine, and I feel like I want to get off, but I'm there with 4 kids and my husband, and we are needing to be on that flight. He was tall and thin, middle-aged, walked stiffly, had a weird pallor to his skin, almost putty-like fake, and blonde hair absolutely plastered to his head, like greased down tight. But it was the plastic-looking skin more than anything. I had to really swallow my fear to get through the flight. When that video of the plane lady came out, I couldn't help but feel solidarity, having just been on a plane with a fake MFer too. So I'm sure most of you remember the viral video of the woman on the plane yelling, "That motherfucker's not real." So, interestingly, there are comments on this post from someone claiming to be that woman, the original plane lady, but that account was suspended, and I doubt it was her. But the comment is still up if you want to see it for yourself. Again, link to this original post in the show notes if you'd like to see that and decide for yourself, because it goes into detail about seeing a humanoid figure and everything on this plane. But again, I seriously doubt it was actually her. Oh, and bonus, in the comments to the alleged plane lady, there are people who are like, I saw those interviews after and that you didn't look the same. And she's like, it wasn't me in those interviews, because that was another part. If you didn't keep following the plane lady conspiracy at the time, she did some follow-up interviews, and a lot of people think that it wasn't actually her in the interviews. So there's another rabbit hole for you to fall down a different day. But here's a different humanoid encounter. Best Turnover 2102 said, a few weeks ago, I was doing a delivery for work out in Grove City, Pennsylvania, when I saw this huge man wearing a hazmat suit and walking down the street. He was entirely covered except for his eyes, and he walked like he didn't know how normal humans walked. He moved his arms and legs in a way that looked like he was dancing while trying to walk. A kid rode by on his bike, and he stopped the kid, talked to him for a few seconds, then started dance walking away. He saw me staring at him after he walked away from the kid and stopped, looked straight at me, and waved his whole arm. I could tell by the way his eyes were squinting that he was smiling at me from under the face mask he was wearing. After that, he walked for a couple seconds, then just disappeared, with no trace. I'm sensitive to the paranormal and have a decent sixth sense, and in that moment, my gut was giving me this sense of dread, like that man wasn't supposed to be there. That one was creepy, but I love it. Pretty quickly had a follow-up from Rick Nashty, 94, that is very reasonable. Not to be that guy, but as someone who works in hazmat, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an environmental hazmat worker. The most simple-sounding places can have some of the most dangerous chemicals. For example, a plant that makes resin/tape will most likely have a phenol which will fuck you up if it touches your skin or even inhale the fumes. Obviously, I don't know the full context of your scenario, but as someone who has worn full Tychem Saranac suits, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, fully taped up with respirator and all, even with supplied air, shit makes you walk funny, lol. The only thing I'd question is him walking around fully suited casually, as it's so hot in those suits. Most guys go in with just their underwear on. Seems pretty reasonable to me, especially since he stopped the kid on the bike. Could have been like, hey, don't go over there. There's dangerous chemicals. ride your bike over there. And yeah. Okay, and here's another humanoid encounter from They Live, We Sleep. Last year in Paris, my brother and I were waiting for our mom while she was getting a few things from the pharmacy. We were just standing out front on the sidewalk, people watching. All of a sudden, this man walking on the street catches both of our attention. We both froze. Without even verbally saying anything to each other or even looking at each other, we just knew we were both fixated on this guy. He appeared older, maybe late 60s, early 70s, was wearing a suit and a trilby-ish hat. His face was unlike anything we've ever seen. His skin was so odd, and it just did not look human. I don't even know how to describe it. The way he walked was stiff and unnatural. His eyes almost looked reptilian, and we were hoping he wouldn't make eye contact with us because holy shit, they were scary. My brother and I are both trying not to stare, so we look away for a few seconds, and when we look back at him, he was totally staring at us. It was like he knew that we knew something was off. I don't get scared that easily, but that encounter still freaks me out to this day. I mean, maybe he had some condition, but my brother and I both had this gut feeling that this wasn't the case. We've never felt so uneasy in our lives. Funny that the one continuation is like the plasticky skin, I guess two continuations, plasticky skin and the stiff way of walking I've noticed from all of these. So I have one last one from this particular genre, subject. This is from Don't Touch Roach. I can finally tell my story. I usually catch these threads when they're too old. I was drawing blood at a very large, world-renowned hospital. It was 3 a.m. I walked to the patient's room in a very old part of the hospital. Now, mind you, this hospital has a wing of basically hotel rooms and another part for important or rich people. I pull up to the room with my cart and check the name on the card. Ultimate Platinum Lucifer, it says. I'm like, what the fuck? I walk into the room and immediately walk back out to get my bearings. The dude in the room was large, probably 6'5". He had what I can only describe as silvery skin. He had short blonde hair and was maybe 60. When one goes into a room, they're supposed to verify the patient's name and date of birth. He wouldn't speak to me, and he felt very menacing. Normally, I would have said piss off, no name, no draw. But I just wanted to get the fuck out of there, and I knew I'd have to go back after talking to the docs. I think about this dude like once a week. I've tried doxing him even, LOL. Like, what the fuck was he? What is with the name? He was in an orthopedic wing and had a cast on his leg. I've looked up so many secret society titles, etc. It still just bugs me. I don't know what that whole thing was about. That is so creepy. Well, if anyone is friends with or knows someone named Ultimate Platinum Lucifer, please write into the show. I would be interested to hear about it. So as I said, that's the last of that particular subject, and we're going to move on. But I could honestly fill a whole episode with the comments from that one. And so if you would like to look them up, please be my guest. They're really interesting, but I wasn't sure if you'd want a whole episode of those. So let's fall down a different rabbit hole. The Toxic Avenger is coming home. Pre-order one of the funniest, most critically acclaimed action movies of the summer at toxicavenger.com/bloodyfm. Get ready to enjoy the hilarious radioactive mayhem from the comfort of your couch. So this one was posted as of this research session that I'm doing only 3 days ago in one of my favorite subreddits, Glitch in the Matrix, by user IS203, titled, "Has anybody else had this weird glitch instance?" I wasn't sure where this kind of post belongs, but felt Glitch in the Matrix was the most fitting. I work in a customer service field that is hands-on and a lot of consultation is involved. Scenario 1, I was consulting 2 young men on a product, and as he was reading through the pricing list, he mutters to his friend, "Gee, the prices aren't cheap, are they?" To which I said, "Yes, however, all products of this quality will tend to have a premium in their prices." The man looks at me wide-eyed and says, "You can speak Greek?" I said, "No, but I have friends close to me that are Greek." "Really? How did you know what I was saying?" They look at each other like they got caught out, and so now I am wide-eyed and thinking, what the fuck, is this man tricking me? Scenario 2. 2 weeks after the Greek incident, I am serving 2 Chinese ladies, an older mother and her daughter. The mother could only speak Mandarin, and the daughter had broken English but could communicate basics. The mother mentions that she likes the red color to the daughter, and I say, "Yes, this is the best one for you, of all the others," in agreement as a reflex response, before I could realize she was actually not speaking English at all. Daughter breaks out in a big smile and says, "You can speak Mandarin?" "No, lady, I cannot. I am not sure what is going on." Has anyone else had an experience like this? And oh, the comments did not disappoint. Sweet Focus 5998 said, "Mine is not as extreme as your experiences, but I have found the best conversations I've had were with people whom I didn't share their language. So, I don't speak a word of Arabic, but I met my friend's dad in her country. He told me his whole life story, and I was really looking forward to talking to him more when she told me a few years after I met him that he'd be visiting her in the US. I had all these questions about his early life that were kind of specific and related to what I was doing at the time. My friend looked at me confused and said, "You know he doesn't speak a word of English, right? He's not going to be able to understand what you're asking." I was so confused because I remember him telling me about his wedding night, being forced to march out of his first and second home, really emotional stories. Another time also happened to be with an Arabic-speaking guy. I was in Egypt and, long story short, was stuck at a house party with some Egyptian Americans I didn't know very well and didn't feel like socializing with them. I sat next to some Egyptian guy who was kind of being ignored by the group because he was a little weird / according to them, had some sort of learning disability. I realized he didn't speak a word of English and I don't speak a word of Arabic. But we somehow got talking about how his mother taught him elementary French as a kid, which I knew a few words of from studying it in middle school 15 years ago. From there, we talked in depth about his work as a cartoonist / his art and the portrayal of the divine feminine in Orthodox Christianity, and how his art explores their role in the current church. Great conversation, and didn't realize it was odd until I got up to refill my drink, and the host pulled me aside incredibly confused as to how we were talking for over an hour in some intense conversation when she knew we didn't speak each other's language. I think a lot more is communicated through means other than spoken language than most of us acknowledge. Here's another example from Garbage Goat. I've absolutely had something similar happen. Really only once, but it was wild. My husband had just gotten Rosetta Stone software of all the languages and was showing it off to a friend who is also a language buff. I'm absolutely terrible and have never been able to learn anything other than English, but they knew a few, mostly German, French, Japanese, and a bit of Mandarin. Long story short, for whatever reason, no matter what language they picked, my brain processed it as English, and I knew the correct answer. They started testing out all the languages, and I got it right almost 100% of the time. Absolutely shocked the hell out of my husband. He knows how bad I am at languages, and I've never been able to repeat it after that night. The original poster actually replied to Garbage Goat and said, "That's really cool. You know how people have a NDE, which is a near-death experience, and come back to life speaking a different language or can play piano that they never learned? I wonder if it may be a reality / timeline glitch for a moment. To which Garbage Goat replied, "That's what it made me think of. That and the babblefish from Hitchhiker's Guide. For a brief moment in my life, one evening, my brain was able to translate 12 languages into English. Sure would be nice if that had stuck around." And I would be remiss if I didn't throw in these two particular comments. There may have been more than this, but these were the two that I saw because there were a lot of comments on this one. And these are both about telepathy. Yours, O Possessive, says, "It's telepathy. This reminds me very much of how I can train some dogs I don't even know. I get them to focus on me, usually using treats, and then I deliberately send them a super clear thought form of them doing what I want from them. Then, copious praise, more treats, repeat. Combined with a clear hand signal, I trained my friend's young dog to heel, sit, and roll over in 30 minutes. I'm a pet sitter, and I do this frequently with dogs and cats I take care of. But I'm nothing special. I'm just a really clear sender. Whenever I'm on a walk and I experience yet another unruly, unleashed dog, I'm going to ask the owner if they have tried telepathy next time." There's another one from Pleiadian Paladin. "You are doing telepathy. There is no language barrier. I can sometimes read my Indonesian wife's thoughts as she thinks them, and I'll say her words before she can internally translate them from Indo to English. It bugs her out. LOL." So, what do you think? What is it? This is such a strange phenomenon. I picked this obviously because I found it so fascinating. I usually choose some older posts. This is a newer one, so if you'd like to participate, you can. It is still open. For those maybe not familiar, Reddit locks threads after a certain amount of time. I feel like they changed it recently, so I don't know how long they stay active. I mean, they're active as in you can read them, but you can't participate in them. You can't upvote or reply to any of the comments or anything. So this one is still active. If anyone would like to, has their own story you'd like to add, or a way to debunk some of this, I don't know. Personally, I think maybe it's just our human ability to pick up on context clues and body language, plus some broken English perhaps thrown in there, some gesturing. Like the person who works at the store said that, it was two particular products in both scenarios that they were referencing. It could have been, that like the mother in the second story was gesturing a lot towards the red object, whatever that was. And they just kind of picked up on body language and maybe nodding and things. And when asked how they knew what she was saying, maybe it was like you were so unaware because it was such an innate thing to do that you're like, I guess I understood her, but maybe not, But we do understand. It is interesting because we do understand each other, I think, in many beautiful ways as humans. But perhaps it's telepathy. So there were some other comments that said that it was proof of simulation theory, as in, our coded languages we're supposed to know got a little jumbled or something. There's a little glitch, an actual glitch in the simulation theory. So what do you think? I would really be interested to hear what you think this might be. Is it something else entirely that I haven't even thought of? Who knows? So this last one is a bit of a wild card. I know you're looking at this and saying, we're only 30 minutes in. How is it the last one? It's a doozy. It sounds like it could be something paranormal, or it could be the beginning of an investigation. So this is another newer one. I'm dipping my toes into doing more, just recent posts. I don't usually, for various reasons, but this was posted just a few days ago by user Actual Durian 1193 in the paranormal subreddit. And well, I'll just let the post speak for itself before I explain. So the post is titled, "Is this a haunting? My home, body, and luck are falling apart." TLDR, for 2 to 3 years, something odd has been targeting my life. Stains, shadows, physical symptoms, scalp pictured above. Again, I'll have that picture linked in the show note. You can go to the show notes and get that picture. Lost items and bad luck, starting around my dog Kobe's illness. I've tried doctors, pest control, cleansings, and repairs, and nothing helps, desperate for advice. My attempt at summarizing. Hi everyone. I've been hesitant to post this, but I feel like I'm at a point where I can't ignore what's happening anymore. Physically and practically, my life has been unraveling, and something bigger than me feels like it's taking over my life. This all started about 3 years ago, around the time my dog Kobe was diagnosed with kidney failure. He was always such a strong, independent dog. Walks with me were the only time he was truly attached. But during that period, he became unusually dependent and needy, almost like he knew something bad was coming. Shortly before this past Christmas, my mom called me crying, saying that Kobe probably wouldn't make it to Christmas. When I came home for the holiday, he wasn't the Kobe I knew. He was weaker, more clingy, and strangely dependent on me. That Christmas break felt heavier because we became closer in this strange, intense way. The first week of January, I got really sick, vomiting in unusual shapes, and that's when a freak accident at work happened. Someone came late to my yoga class and dropped a glass water bottle. I tried to clean it up myself, injured my hand, fainted, and was fired for not doing proper protocol, even though there was no first aid kit. Fighting it through HR didn't work, and that incident marked the start of a chain of chaos in my life. Around the same time, my paranormal experiences began escalating. 3 years ago, I was having sleep paralysis, where a creepy hand was beside me, holding me down. At the beginning of this year, I woke up all morning with my hands inflamed, and my boyfriend had even said, like, they look like old lady hands. Then I started seeing shadows in Kobe's room while he was still alive. He screamed in pain at night, and marks would appear where he had been. I now see these same marks everywhere. My body and my skin feel stretched. My scalp is a mess, added a pick. My hair suddenly went red. I'm normally brunette, doing blonde. And sensations of being physically squished or pulled. My boyfriend recently slept over and felt something pressing on his chest. My apartment has become unmanageable to handle. Garbage trails follow me, hair clippings, and even my foot clippings vanish. Appliances echo after I turn them off. Chairs move when no one's there. Stains and garbage trails follow me everywhere. My apartment, my parents' house, even my car. No matter how much I clean, sweep, or vacuum, nothing makes a difference. Pest control, environmental checks, and professional cleaning haven't solved anything. I spent $7,000 to fix my car. BMW told me that I wasn't going crazy and that my oil engine had a leak because there was some chewing or tampering with the wiring, and that it looked like someone had dumped like over a gallon of coffee in the center console. Looking back, when this whole thing started, bad stuff was happening, but I just kept thinking like, okay, that's not in alignment with me, I guess, and I just kept trying to stay positive, and even with the lucid dreaming, I was like, I don't want to give whatever this is power. For example, 2 years ago, my best friend since high school randomly ghosted me shortly after I ended my engagement. I hadn't fully opened up about it, but even now, looking back, I realized they should have supported me, especially after a 10-year friendship. Around that same period, I was fired from my full-time marketing job. I pivoted to teaching yoga and Pilates, and they were going really well, but it seems like whatever is following me isn't happy with me making the best of my life. Since then, I have had freak accidents, lost opportunities, and even tried spiritual cleansing, church visits, and professional help, including a scam black magic clearing that cost me money. Nothing works. It's reached a point where I can't even do things I love anymore. I can't stretch in yoga or Pilates without feeling wrong in my body. I'm all frazzled. Things fall out of my hands or I drop things and I can't form proper sentences sometimes if someone asks me a question. Things randomly appear, stains show up, and I feel like I'm physically pulled down, like gravity itself is against me. I feel trapped in my own body and my own space. I haven't even been able to properly grieve Kobe because I'm fighting something I don't understand and it's isolating. My fingers randomly turn black and I feel like my beauty and energy are being stripped away. Sometimes I feel like my place is mirroring my grandmother's I was named after. I wake up and catch myself standing or moving like her, and it's unsettling. One morning, my hands looked like old lady hands. She had stains everywhere in her home, mostly water stains, but as a kid, I always thought they looked like eyes, and I remember always being weirded out by certain objects in her house. Now I have similar marks, and it creeps me out. The day after she died, there was a bird watching me and Kobe. Once, while vacuuming my apartment in frustration, I looked out at my porch. I live near an airport on the top floor, and there was that same bird staring at me from the side. I've heard that we sometimes pay for the sins of our grandparents or ancestors, and sometimes I feel that might be what's happening to me. My grandparents worked incredibly hard for money, and they would have done anything for it. And now, being basically broke, it makes me question if some of this is tied to them. A friend once told me that spirits can latch on and make you think they're familiar when they're not. Thinking about it this way has made me feel conflicted about my grandparents, even though I know it's not fair. And yet, the experience feels eerily similar or connected to them. I've asked for clarity on what this is, but it doesn't reveal itself. It stays hidden enough to cause stress, day to day, living while making me look messy, disoriented, stupid, and repulsive. Has anyone experienced anything like this? Even advice on how to reclaim your space, body, and energy when something invisible seems to be actively harming you would be helpful. I'm desperate. If you made it this far, thank you so much for reading. I know this is long and a lot to take in. I just can't think straight these days, and I'm doing my best to get it all out. I really appreciate anyone who takes the time to listen and share advice. And currently, as of recording this is the top comment from Professional Koala 416. Crazy thought. Could your boyfriend poison first your dog to test it and then started poisoning you? How's your relationship going? I thought that was a very interesting observation. So OP, again, Actual Durian 1193, replied and said, "Okay, it's funny you say that because sometimes whenever I'm bitching to him about it all, like he'll say, 'Imagine it's me.' The only thing is that guy loves animals way more than I do. He has a dog of his own, and I could never see him causing harm like that. He does have a key. He actually set up my new lock when this whole thing started. Trust me, I've kind of looked into that without being too paranoid. I don't think it's him, but I'm also really needing to reply to this one comment specifically, or this chain, because I don't want you to think that it was offensive or anything. If I hadn't thought of this myself, I do appreciate the fact that you guys are really looking into this for me. He had actually said that it might be my ex-fiance, but it's got to a point where he's like, I don't even think it's him. It could be like a new girlfriend of his or something. When I brought my car in last month, the girl had said that the technician suggested to file a police report because they said that there was intentional tampering with my car. The tampering, though, whenever I noticed something was going wrong, it would always be after I was teaching classes, which he'd be taking my class or with me. His concern was that I was being targeted for sex trafficking after we visited Peru back in November, and we had a layover in Colombia, and a guy approached me and started following me. My boyfriend notified authorities right away and gets mad at me whenever I go grocery shopping or something past like 8 o'clock and says you need to carry bear spray. He was actually really concerned, so I don't think it's him, but I do appreciate the insight. it did drive a bit of a wedge between our relationship, and there was a point where he did break up with me. Nothing changed, though. I was still experiencing the things I was experiencing, just a lot sadder. LOL. Well, Professional Koala 416 then replied again and said, "That's a weird thing to say. Can you go and take a vacation far from your home and boyfriend for 3 to 4 weeks to see if your health is getting better? And if though, you need to find out if your home is making you sick, or boyfriend, or your mental health. Or admit yourself into a closed psych ward where he can't get in, and you can let a psychological team test you if it's all stress related. Which I don't think, but bonus is they will also make physical tests to see if you're lacking any vitamins or if it's some weird chemistry thing going on in your body that makes you feel this way. I still think your boyfriend could perfectly gaslight you, and maybe if he does videos of you unconscious, someone else close to him might be in on it and do things to your car while he's in your classes with you. If you can't go grocery shopping, is he buying them and then cooking for you and tells you to leave him alone when he's cooking? You also need to consider your dog's kidney failure wasn't intended from him. Maybe he thought to just test a little bit, but that little bit was still too strong." That's a lot of accusations from Professional Koala 416. And that garnered, many responses. This is a very long thread full of different opinions. A lot of them sprouting from the initial, do you think your boyfriend's poisoning you? This user had a different reply than a lot of them that I saw. Bipolar Furry E-Girl said, "I think this is really dangerous to claim since a lot of these things happen without the boyfriend around. Don't put these thoughts into OP's head. This is how paranoid, psychotic episodes happen." And I can see why they said that, because it does seem, it's clearly all of this stuff is wearing on OP's mental health. I'm not going to say it's not, it's all from her mental health, it's just clear there is a mental health aspect in here, whether it's because of something being done to her or not. So there was a different response from L Page 2723 that says, "I don't think your boyfriend is responsible because you said it started when you broke up with your fiance, and I doubt you were with your boyfriend when you broke up with your fiance." Well, anyway, I wonder if your fiance had any information about you that would cause your friends to ghost you. Your dog's illness may be a coincidence, unless someone is maybe poisoning something that you eat and share with your dog. You could also maybe have some negative feelings about the breakup, maybe some guilt that is inviting negative energy. I'm not very big on paranormal, but your post did have an effect on me. You seem absolutely frantic and scared. I don't know if your ex-friends could be sending some negativity your way. I have been wearing a crystal bracelet to protect me from negative energy ever since my abusive ex-husband committed suicide. He attempted to kill me while he was alive, and I feel like he is trying to bring negativity into my life. The first bracelet I bought practically jumped off a shelf that I set it on and fell behind my kitchen cabinets. I feel like some of it is my fault. I have his ashes on my dresser because we have kids and I feel like they may forgive him and want their dad's ashes someday. Maybe I should get rid of them. I hope you can figure out what is bringing this to you and find a way to stop it. Sending you all the positive energy I can. Edit to add, since this is Reddit, get a carbon monoxide detector, just in case. That comment I included because it's such a perfect Reddit comment. It starts off it started off very reasonable, and I even appreciated the perspective of I'm not very big on the paranormal, here's what could be happening, to then immediately pivot into the paranormal. Literally next sentence, I'm not big on the paranormal, but I do wear a crystal bracelet to protect me from my dead ex's evil spirit. I don't mean to laugh at the tragedy of the entire situation. Clearly this is very difficult. And then making the rest of the post about what they should do with their ex's ashes. And then toss in edit of BTW, get a carbon monoxide detector. It just is such a like perfect encapsulation of like Reddit commenters to me. But also, I thought it was an interesting perspective. They're like, I don't think it's your boyfriend, and also carbon monoxide. It has been carbon monoxide on Reddit before, so this other person, Sin Vega, said, sorry for what's happening to you, but did you ever find out why your dog suddenly got sick and died shortly after? You also got sick very soon after, so maybe you got something from him. Sleep paralysis plus bad hair can be caused by stress. I almost went bald during depression. Inflammation in the hands plus other physical symptoms may be a reaction to whatever got you sick. Did you go to the doctor? Not really seeing any paranormal in this. I was interested in this too because OP had said they tried professional help, but then followed that up with they paid like a black magic spiritual cleanser or something. So I was like, wait, is that the professional help? Or were you talking about like, you know, like modern medicine professional help? So Actual Durian, OP, replied and said, thanks for your concern. I did see doctors, got medical tests, and nothing explained all of what's happening. The physical symptoms, the weird marks, and the following phenomena. I've explored environmental factors, infections, and stress as much as possible. We have no idea why he randomly just took the turn he did within a weekend. I understand it may not look paranormal from the outside, but this is literally affecting my life in ways that can't be explained medically or physically. I'm just looking for advice from anyone who might have experienced unexplainable events or ways to reclaim your space and energy when things feel actively off. It looks like I forgot to include the comment in my notes, but someone had asked about actually like contacting someone from maintenance for their apartment building to check, you know, again, carbon monoxide. I told that story on the show already. And OP said, yes, I've checked. I reached out to condo management and had someone come in and they found nothing and waited no time to send me an invoice for it. But I also had someone on my own come check humidity levels. Growing up with immigrant parents, my room was always scorching hot. My dad doesn't believe in AC, so ever since I moved out, I've been like blasting it because it's a novelty. Things my mom sends me, like a cooler or like containers, anything that I brought them from home, kind of was causing an issue in the first place, which should have been an indicator for me. Aside from a spiritual side of, you know, bringing objects from my parents' house into my new space, I think my parents' house is probably the bigger possible source for something like mold. My mom says the house was checked and there was nothing, but I can't be 100% sure. I feel like she said that to shut me up. One of my dad's rentals did have mold and was remediated, so I know it's possible he may have mold spores on clothing. Myself included in my family and I can be a little too carefree about those things, but regardless, even after environmental testing, nothing fully explains the blood stains and the other weird stuff that seems to follow me around, even outside my place. Or like my place will be fine all week, and then just like 2 hours before my boyfriend comes, there's like a disaster that I have to clean, and there's been about 5 times, or he's walked in, and I look like a maniac trying to clean up a disaster. I have no idea where it came from, and he's just like looking at me like, you're weird and you're disgusting, lady. I teach yoga, and when I mentioned the possibility of mold at my place to a student, they were like, there's mold all over downtown Toronto, probably here too. So I like also don't want to stress over things that are beyond my control. Like I've done my due diligence, if that makes sense. I just can't pinpoint the source, and talking to professionals sometimes makes me feel like I'm sounding crazy. At this point, I just want to get back to living my life and stop having these random things ruin my health, work, and money. I have that post, of course, linked in the show notes as well if you'd like to follow along. If OP ever updates, because again, this was only posted a few days ago, or if you have any advice for them, you know, I hesitate to even say where my mind leans, but I think, again, it could be mold. And I think a lot of this is mental health. That I think that they need some mental health help, definitely. Like, again, they mentioned having professional help, but they never specifically mentioned getting any sort of psychological help. So I wonder if that would help things exponentially, or I don't know, it's ghosts, man. I don't know, but I do feel for this person. They're clearly very upset and disturbed by everything, and I wish them well. I hope everything clears up. I hope they find whatever the help is they need. I hope they find it and figure out what it is. So that is this week's Dark Reddit, or this month's. I say this week's as if I do them weekly. This episode of Dark Reddit. I have so much fun with these. They're just a delight. And this one in particular was very fascinating. I did a little less commentary in between each comment and post. I don't know if that's something you might prefer or you like it the old way. I like to experiment, change things up every now and then, just see, give everybody a little bit, what's happening to my brain? Give everyone a little bit of everything, because I'm sure some of you like this more or that more, and try to make everyone happy. I know you can't make everyone happy. Believe me, I know. Okay, go follow the show. At Scare You to Sleep on all the socials, at Shelby B. Novak. If you'd like to follow me personally on all the socials, I mostly stick around Instagram. And follow the Bloody Disgusting podcast. I haven't mentioned it in a while, but I have so much fun doing the Bloody Disgusting podcast. And if you're a fan of Creepy, which I know I have a huge crossover audience with the Creepy podcast, John from Creepy was just on the Bloody Disgusting podcast. So check out the latest episode. It's called Get Laid or Die Trying. And it's also on YouTube. You can see our smiling, beautiful faces, me and Xena, every week. And yeah, so it's also available as a podcast as well. But yeah, if you want to check that out. And kids stories, please send in your kids stories. I've gotten a few. It's a little slower this year, which, that's totally fine. I understand. If it's a shorter episode, it's a shorter episode. I'm not going to show up at your house and shake you down for a kid's story, but they are due October 1st. You still have time. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, submit your kids' stories to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. Just put kids' stories in the subject line. What else? Other housekeeping? I don't believe so. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And happy spooky fall season, everyone. Go get some sleep. Sweet dreams. The Toxic Avenger is coming home. Pre-order one of the funniest, most critically acclaimed action movies of the summer at toxicavenger.com/bloodyfm. Get ready to enjoy the hilarious radioactive mayhem from the comfort of your couch.